the band in the centre of the arena. You can see some markers out there in the cricket pitch area where some people are putting out some markers for the skydivers. And there's the scene inside the Sandhurst rooms. Obviously the coach Dennis O'Hare is going to have a lot to say to his players. They're 7 points down at half-time, and let's have some of the better players in the Sandhurst lineup.
Well, for my money, Alan, I would say that Stephen Road playing on the wing would have to be among Sandhurst's better players, and of course you couldn't leave out Bill Nolder. He's done a power of work around the ground, marked well, and has been really outstanding. We've got Bill Nolder down for 7 marks and 9 kicks. Stephen Rhodes into double figures here with 10 marks, 10 kicks, I beg your pardon, including from the 3 marks. Kevin Walsh on the other wing has had 9 kicks and been quite a handy player. And Greg Hull, of course, with 4 goals from only 7 kicks, you'd have to mark him down. That's value for kicks.
Yes, Richard, I'd have both Greg Hull and Mark McAvale up on that forward line. They've been very creative players for Sandhurst and have always looked dangerous. McAvale with his leaps and creative play, and Greg Hull, whenever he gets that ball, it spells danger today for that Golden Square defence.
In the Golden Square team, Shane and Alan, I would think that you'd have to have Greg Williams in there. He's got 12 kicks, and I think he's on top of Frank Coggan overall. Frank Coggan seems to be a little bit scrappy in his play. His ground play is not nearly as good as it normally is, and he's missed a few marks. I don't know whether Frank's nervous or what the situation is with him, but I'd have Greg Williams on top in the centre with 12 kicks and 3 marks. Other good players for Golden Square, Alan Patterson has had 6 kicks, and he's landed 3 goals from them. His brother John has done pretty well too on the back line. Big Johnny Williams has had 8 kicks. Lee Gallagher around the packs has had 8 kicks. Malcolm Cowling on the wing, staging a good battle over there with Kevin Walsh. He's had 8 kicks.
Well, it's interesting that I'd say Sandhurst are on top on both wings, Richard, but Golden Square on top in the centre. But Williams and Coghlan not having a great bearing on the game at the moment, are they?
No, Greg Williams is doing a lot of the hard work around the field, and he's roaming all over the place. He's over on the far side where we can see the band now at some stage of the oval, some stages of the match. He's over on our side. He's up in the back line, over in the forward line, and he does a lot of work. The free kicks, Neville's got 19 free kicks to Golden Square for the match to date, and 17 to Sandhurst, so there's not much in the free kick department.
Well, we've seen the goal umpires just double-check the scores there with the scoreboard attendance here at the QEO, and it's Golden Square 10-6-66 to Sandhurst 9-5-59 at half-time. Very shortly we'll see the aircraft come over with some skydivers, but one of the special guests in Bendigo this week for the Bendigo Grand Final is Alan Killigrew, who's come across from Adelaide, and we spoke with him a short time ago and asked him what he thought of all these young boys going down to try and make the big time in the VFL during their teenager years. Well, Alan, welcome to Bendigo. Your thoughts on the football scene here?
Oh, thanks. Well, Bendigo's always been a football scene, hasn't it? In my lifetime, some of the greatest football names of all time in Melbourne and everywhere come out of the Bendigo Football League. It's always been a great source of talent, and I assume that it still is.
Alan, you mentioned at the league breakfast this morning that there's a lot of youngsters who've got aspirations of becoming VFL footballers. They're going down to Melbourne too young.
Yes, I believe that. I'll cut this as short as I can, but it takes a while to explain it, so be patient, please, if you're interested. If not, switch off. But, right, I believe that there is an opinion in Melbourne that believes they are the only ones that can develop footballers. Now, history proves that wrong. In my lifetime as a player and a coach, at least 60% of the footballers come to Melbourne from the country centres and were ready-made footballers. Now, the reason for that was that they were properly coached and they played against men. Now they believe that they've got to go down through the system in Melbourne, through the under-19s. Now, that in itself is a bottleneck. The young players are coming up, and sooner or later there's got to be an overspill, with the results that in Melbourne now players are being tried and found wanting at an age really when they ought to first just be being tried, in my belief. Certainly some make it, but the majority do not, and they all cost about $4,000 to $5,000 per year. So, and I believe that money that's being spent on the individual would be better put back into the area. So I believe that if they created the same set of circumstances in their country centre that exists in Melbourne, subsidise coaches, have a professional foot running coach. I just seen a lad down there, Gallagher. What he wants is a summer in spikes. There's people up here that could teach him to run properly, get a bit of speed into him. Or if they lack weight, provide the necessary equipment for them to build muscles. In this day, very necessary, because kids don't lift anything bigger than a pie anyway.
Alan, the country people, do they miss out on seeing the bush champion because these kids go so early?
Yes, of course they do. Once upon a time, they build up their own following, their own history, and the local kids knew him personally. Now he's just an abstract thing, but this was absolute. He knew him, he carried his bag in, and the game in the long term profited both here. The football standard improved, remained good, because there were champions ready to go back, and when they were ready to go to Melbourne, like Morrow, Stevenson, I can go on forever, Dick Roberts, they went straight into league sides, and that could be created again, and I believe to the benefit of football in the country, and to the benefit of football in Melbourne, and to the benefit of football generally.
Okay, have a good time in Bendigo today.
Thanks very much.
Shane, interesting comments there from Alan Killigrew about young boys who want to make the big time in the VFL a bit younger.
No doubt about Alan Killigrew. He's always been the father of motivation, and he hasn't changed. As someone said to me at the grand final breakfast this morning, I thought he was an old man till he started talking.
Yes, a magnificent old man is Alan Killigrew. Of course, he's been associated with football all his life. He's a healthy 66 years of age, and he's having a great time here. He was at the breakfast this morning, the league luncheon, and of course here he's staying here to have a look at the game this afternoon. There we see a shot of the band on the Queen Elizabeth Oval. Out on the centre, you'll see a young lad with a streamer. He's giving the guide to the plane high above the Queen Elizabeth Oval, and the Skyhawk Skydivers, which is a new club designed to cater for the needs of country people of Victoria, have certainly done a lot of work in promoting parachuting in the Bendigo and Swan Hill areas in recent months, and we'll see the
plane, right now, Alan. We can hear the plane coming over, and wonder how they'll judge this wind.
Yes, I would say they'll take a couple of runs and then they'll come down. It's very colourful, and usually these sky divers are very, very accurate. You can see the cross marked in the cricket pitch area of the QEO, and they won't be far out when they touch down in a few minutes' time.
The QEO is a real picture. Richard, I'd estimate the gate somewhere between about $8,000 and $11,000. I'd say it will be one of the better grand final gates of the past decade.
Yes, indeed, Shane. I think you're quite right there. It's a pretty fair crowd. We're looking around there now past the outside broadcast band and the Melbourne scoreboard. We'll look across to the great old grandstand, of course, past the man with the streamer. And it is a very good crowd. I would think somewhere between, as you say, $8,000 and $10,000 or $11,000.
On the monitor a moment ago, you saw quarter time and half-time scores. And Sandhurst had a narrow break at the end of the first stanza, but Golden Square certainly had the better of the second term. I thought they got on top across their half-back line, where Blavey is dominating. He's playing a terrific game. Dillon got on top of McAvale, though McAvale is still very creative. Collins has been kept fairly quiet by Charger Daly. And we certainly found that there's no doubt about the fact that Golden Square have taken the initiative in this game, though it's only a narrow one. The lead seesawed probably half a dozen times in that second term, and certainly don't write Sandhurst off. They went into this game as favourites, and rightfully so. They probably will be the fitter side, though I've got a feeling in the end we're going to find out just who is the fitter side, Alan, because that's what's going to tell.
Yes, it's whether Big Bill Nalder can keep going. He's playing the game of his life in this grand final this afternoon, and of course he's having everything thrown against him by Big Alan Patterson and Ross Adlam, and occasionally Johnny Williams too. So if Big Bill can keep going this afternoon, Sandhurst are going to be right in the bandwagon.
There's a shot of the crowd right round, going around the perimeter of the ground, and it's a pretty fair crowd. A beautiful spring afternoon. The Bendigo Football League Board of Management, which is to be congratulated for its innovative schemes this year, and a tremendous grand final, and a build-up all through the week, actually, to the grand final. There's the grandstand, and when the people come back from the traditional pies at half-time, you'll see it's absolutely chock-a-block.
Well, Richard, the Bendigo Board of Management would be congratulated on their organisation of the weather too. They couldn't have picked it any better, could they?
No, indeed. I don't know whether Dennis Connor, the Newport America's Cup skipper, has had anything to do with it, because I remember early in the piece he thought that America was... God was on America's side. Well, he's certainly on the Bendigo Football League Board of Management side this afternoon.
Richard, do you think Sandhurst are getting full value? Let's get back to the game for a moment out of Gary Kerwin. I believe we've got Graham Arthur coming up shortly, Alan, and I'll just have a quick chat to Richard about Kerwin, because Sandhurst across that half-forward line are falling down. I think they need more value from him. What do you make it?
Well, Kerwin, of course, according to our sheets, has had no kicks in the first quarter and 2 kicks in the second quarter. He's done a couple of taps across. That's one of his specialities. When a ball is in the air, he does flip it across or do a sort of backhand punch toward for his running players like Stephen Rode and Kent Ward and Michael Lenigan to pick up, but that's not enough kicks in a grand final, two to half time, no matter how many little tap-ons you do.
Sandhurst have been out-roved.
Now on the QEO, there are 3 of them, the members of the Skyhawks Skydivers, one of the new clubs designed to cater for the needs of country people of Victoria. The club is designed to be portable and supplies instructors, aircraft, equipment, pilots and jump masters. And the Skyhawk Skydivers operating in the country areas eliminates the high costs of travel and accommodation. And I believe Alan Howard, our tourist promotion man, is one of the Skyhawks here today. And also the instructor, Ben Page, who's made a fantastic amount of jumps, and we've seen them at Swan Hill recently and here at the grand final at the QEO this afternoon as the plane pulls away, and we're going to see just how accurate these Skyhawk skydivers are. There's some of the people in the crowd who certainly captured the imagination watching these Skyhawks coming down to land on the QEO. It's a magnificent sight.
Well, as that Skyhawk comes down, I was just going to mention about Rodder. He's been a good...
Have had 6 kicks total. Golden Square, as you say, doing the better across the half-forward line for the 2 teams. And in fact, when you look at the quarter-by-quarter scores, Golden Square added 6 goals, 4 in that quarter, to Sandhurst 3 goals, 4. So Golden Square well on target and doing more for that quarter.
Well, we've got the skydivers coming